What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of In the Cut Fantasy Sports Podcast. This is actually splitting up our position previews, and we're gonna mix things up a little bit. We brought a guest on. We're gonna go five buys and five fades at the current ADP. Kind of going off December 1st ADP and draft champions. So before we get into that, what's up, Ryan? How are you?
What's going on, man? Um, I'm sorry, I'm fucking lagging like crazy right now. I'm doing great. Great start to the show.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful
we got
technical
our
difficulties.
yeah. We got our for now. I just have to call him Reggie, just because that's how I know him best. But we got our boy Reggie on the pod today. How you doing, man?
What's up, boys? Thanks for having me. Doing great. Um, my real name's Mark, if anyone's wondering, but Reggie works just fine too. So just looking forward to hanging out with the boys, talking some ball.
Absolutely. I've been following you on Twitter for a couple of years now. We're in a dynasty league together, and I just always noticed you were a sharp player. So I wanted to have you on and pick your brain a little bit on five buys and five sells at ADP. And I noticed you're pretty. You seem to be pretty active in the draft room right now. How many drafts you've done so far?
I'm gonna have to check here. I think 8 or 9. I'm in a DC with Fish right now, actually. That's going on.
It's a pretty good number this time of
Three,
year.
yeah, 3 DCs, 3 or 4 50s, 2 Gladiators, something like that.
It's a pretty healthy amount. I dig that.
That's right. Always be drafting.
Absolutely, and that leads us up to your takeaways from last year. Do you want to go into a little more detail about always be drafting and why that helped you out last year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is only going to be my third year playing on NFBC, and before that, I was playing like 10-team dynasty home leagues points, and so I was obviously looking for a bigger challenge and got that with the NFBC. So I had a lot to learn. I had never even played Roto before, never played 15-team league, so just getting those reps in the draft room is huge. I mean, some people in the poll hitter Discord kind of debate whether or not it's worth drafting early because there's so much variance and injuries and guys haven't even signed yet. But for me, doing these drafts all off season is such huge preparation for the faster drafts in March and for the fab leagues. By the time we get to those drafts, I've already thought through so many different builds and different player decisions that those 1 minute clock decisions are happening way more natural, and I just think it's a huge advantage if you got the time and the money for it.
And Fish, you can go into detail after this quick point, but I think it's so huge because I find myself having different players on my team drafting for like 4 or 5 months. Because ADP shifts so much, someone gets injured, someone gets traded. You find like new players on your team, opposed to if you just drafted all your teams in March, you'd probably have around the same players on every team. So for another reason, I think that's a really good reason to draft all off season. Fish, were there anything we didn't bring up? Because I know you're big on drafting from basically October, November to all the way up to opening day.
Yeah, part of it's being a degenerate, but some of it is also like at the end of the season. A lot of things are fresh in my mind. Like, man, I really like the way this guy finished the season, so I'm gonna hop in a draft like right away as soon as the season ends, and make sure I can secure some shares there. And another thing is like a lot of people that play in the higher stakes and stuff, they use a lot of the draft champions for their prep, so it's a slower clock. So you get time to think things over, look at certain players, make selections. Bunch of different builds is another good way to do things. Like Mark, I think you were kind of hinting at that. Whereas like you put yourself in position where when the fast drafts come in March, okay, you're behind in stolen bases. Well, you've been drafting for so long now, you know exactly who your targets are going to be to try to make those up. Batting average, behind the batting average. Okay, well now you got targets that that are likely going to be there a little bit later that you can maybe jump around or something like that. So just getting to know the player pool and, being prepared for the big drafts when March comes. And also, I mean, just getting deals on guys. so many times you see it. Everybody always says that pitchers get pushed up in March, and that they say it because it's true. It's not just the top guys; it's a lot of the mid-level guys go from the 5th round to the 3rd round. So you get a lot of good deals early on in draft season.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Now, Reggie, your second point, you said it was early closers in draft and hold. Was that so? You said you've been playing for 3 years. Was last year the only time you went early closers, or did you learn from the previous 2 years from not taking closers early that is now the move?
The latter. I did probably 7 or 8 DCs over the past 2 years, and just looking at the results from last year and how my team stacked up against the rest of the contest, even my best teams were kind of dragged down because I didn't have enough saves. And when I looked back at those drafts, I just was not investing early enough at all. I was taking one early, and then I was taking shots way too late. And that's another thing I've sort of been forced into this DC that Fish and I are in right now, and I don't like it. So as tough of a pill to swallow as it is early in the draft, I do think it's worth it. I mean, last year we saw probably the lowest, closer turnover across the season that we've seen in a while. I don't know if we can expect that again, but I'm willing to bite the bullet and get at least, I think two closers early is the right way to go, and then take some shots later on.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was my second year I started playing where I noticed the closer thing. The first year I only played a mid-season OC, and then the second year when I'm doing these DCs and trying all these new contests, I'm like, why are closers being taken so early? And the more like saves, because I played a lot of head-to-head, some roto before I got into NFBC, but you don't realize how important those steady closers are. They're as valuable as like a top bat.
Yeah, I mean, especially in DCs, right? That's the mindset I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, once you transition to Fab, maybe it's more like one good closer, and you count on some transactions mid-season to pick up some more saves. But right now, I think it is worth it.
No, absolutely. And last point, staying aggressive in Fab. Why don't you go into a little more detail with that?
Sure. Yeah. So Fab was another thing that was brand new to me once I started playing NFBC, and my initial approach was just to be as aggressive as possible. I think that's just my nature. I like digging in. I like tweaking things. I like making moves, and I think that really pays off. The 2 Fab leagues that I did end up winning last year, one MEQ and one OLAC, I was just making so many transactions to the point where I was pretty close to running out in the end. But if you just continue to stay aggressive and you make those moves at the end of the year, teams are going to give up. Teams are going to fall out of contention, and I'm willing to deal with those last few weeks having only a couple bucks left if that's what it takes. Because if I got there, then it was worth being aggressive to begin with.
Yeah, I think being aggressive with the right players is definitely, and I'm not saying like predict the future, which players are going to be good, but I think the thing I learned after my first year of Fab is the $15 to $45 bids. There is something I did way too many of my first couple of years, and now this year coming up, I'm definitely going to eliminate that from my game. I'm basically going to treat all the 1 to 10 player guys like a buck or two, and then when I really want to go in for Bryce Miller, I liked a lot. Trying to think of anybody else. I actually did like Matt Mervis. I ended up not getting him, but just like guys that you're really interested in. Matt McClain, another one.
Bobby Miller.
Bobby Miller. Those guys, I want to go higher on those guys and basically have no in between, like $100-$200 on the guys I really like, and then like $1 to $3 on my streamers or guys I want to pick up. I just wasted so much money, like $40 on a guy that's not good, and that really killed me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's a good approach. I'm to the point where I've been so aggressive that I probably do have to rein it in a little bit, and that's a good place to start. I think with those mid-dollar bids that maybe are not worth it. Maybe being more comfortable getting your second, third, fourth guy in your bid list. if you're not really convinced that it's going to be like a month or two or a rest of season type player. But like I said, yeah, I think you should start out with the mindset of being aggressive and just making moves and churning and churning and churning, because I think that's the way to go.
Absolutely, especially in the online auctions are 15s.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, yeah. The 15 Fab Leagues are tough. I've never played an online auction, but playing in a main, I've played in 2 mains so far. Those 15 team Fab Leagues, it makes you really, really want to go higher on those those Bobby Miller, Matt McClain types, because the wire is dog shit for the majority of the season.
Yeah,
Um,
it definitely is.
yeah, it can get brutal sometimes. So that's the theme of the show today is we're going to go over 5 buys from myself, Fish, and Reggie, 5 each. And it's going to be, I think we did a pretty good job of, I'm looking over the list now. Yeah, we pretty much have, well, Fish has fades in the top 100, but 90% of the players we're going to be talking about are outside the top 100. I wanted to do that because I feel like it's so easy to say you're buying a player that's in the top 100. It's very rare that someone like really, really busts, like an Alec Manoa, let's say. That doesn't really happen that often in the top 100 unless somebody gets injured. So the fact that all of our buys are outside the top 100, I think that should help some people out. But Fish, why don't you go over your first buy, Jake Berger? Tell us why you like him so much.
Yeah, Jake Berger. So the theme last year was third base is so shallow, it's so shallow. I don't really think it's that shallow, but Jake Berger is a huge target for me. I really don't. I mean, he's going at roughly ADP like 161. You look at his barrel rate, 16.7% barrel, had 58 barrels last year. I don't think a lot of people were even planning on Jake Berger being a full-time player at the start of last year. So going to this year, he knows he has a full-time job. I think he can prepare all offseason, and just know that he's going to be in the lineup every day, which is just, for your psyche. To me, that's awesome. He had a max EV of 118.2. That's pretty nuts. And, one of the issues he did have was a strikeout rate, and he improved that for the 3rd year in a row. Now, it still wasn't great, but 27.6% last year from where he was a couple years ago is really good. So, yeah, I'm all over Jake Berger. And one other little stat for everybody, there's a lot of XBA fans and stuff like that out there. His XBA was actually 270, so he should have actually hit for even a better average last year.
Yeah, Berger, as long as he can make enough contact, he can definitely hit 35 to 40 home runs again. I like that call, especially where he's going. Like for someone that had hit 35, right? He had around 35 home runs last year. Going ADP 160, that's a pretty good. Like I kind of thought he'd be going a little higher based on what he did last year. Reggie, why don't you go into your first buy? You took Nationals catcher Keibert Ruiz. Just tell us why you like him so much.
Yeah, I think he's just like, for me, the last catcher in that group when they all start to go that I'm comfortable with, and I think he shouldn't necessarily be the last one in that group. I mean, he hit 18 home runs last year. I wouldn't necessarily expect that many again, but he's going to help you in average. He's going to play every day. Maybe the counting stats are underwhelming on the Nationals, but I don't know, a catcher who's going to hit 270, 280, be in the lineup, and I think you can count on 15 home runs. To me, that's exactly what you're hoping for with a catcher like Gabriel Moreno, who's going earlier. So for me, anytime I'm looking for average for my catcher, I'm passing on Moreno and I'm taking Ruiz.
Yeah, I really like that. You mentioned Moreno because I think he has a bit of a postseason bump. He had all those home runs in the postseason, and people are going to go overreact to that. But I don't think he's a bit as more talented than Keibert Ruiz is, and they're both locked for playing time. So I like that comparison a lot.
I'm a big fan of Ruiz as well. Took him in that DC that we're in right now, Mark. So.
Yeah, I know. Saw that. You guys I like.
Yeah, that K rate. I mean, it's pretty rare for a a catcher to have that, good of a K rate. And I think there's even more opportunity for a better batting average. I love watching his approach at the plate. I think he's got potential to be a top 5 catcher for sure.
Yeah, I'm still brushing up on my swing metrics here, but 14.3 whiff percentage, 91.8 zone contact, 10% K rate. Like, he's gonna put the ball in play. He's gonna have a plus average for a catcher. It just feels real safe.
He's also very young.
Yeah.
I think he's like 23, 24, and he's been in the league for a couple of years. So he's going to have a season where, a prime peak season, whatever, that's going to have a high average with a lot of home runs. So I like that call a lot on Kuiper Ruiz. My first buy is going to be with an ADP of 109. I'm going to take, for now, Chicago White Sox starting pitcher Dylan Cease. He might not be on the White Sox by the time the season starts, but Dylan Cease had a 32% strikeout rate in 2021, 30% strikeout rate in 2022. It came down a little bit in 2023. I really don't see any reason for that. His velocity did come down a little bit, but the whiff rate on the fastball only went down 3%. That's really not a big number. The whiff rate on his slider was exactly the same as it was the year prior. The stuff is still really good. He still had a 31% whiff rate. And in the second half of the season, there were times where I know he's very inconsistent the whole year, but there were times in the second half of the season where he started to come back as like the old Dylan Cease. And with pitchers, I feel like everyone just overreacts to whatever ERA they had that year. I'm really just looking for the skills that they have. I'm looking if their stuff is the same. Like I said, his velo went down a mile per hour, but 1 mile per hour when you're throwing 96, 97, to me really doesn't do a whole lot. I still think he's going to be quite good, especially if he goes to, I don't know, let's say Atlanta, the Dodgers. I still think he's going to be traded to a contender just because the White Sox are very bad and have no use for his services for the last 1 or 2 years before he's a free agent. So I'm buying all of the Dylan Cease. Last year, he was being taken as like a 3rd or 4th round pick, maybe even higher sometimes. And talent-wise, I don't think he's any different than he was last year. So I'm buying the dip on Dylan Cease.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like where he was going last year, he was probably your SP1. Where he's going this year is probably your SP3, maybe even your SP4 on some teams. And, you get those huge, top 2 starting pitchers with elite ratios and strikeouts. And then you throw another, Dylan Cease on there who's, where he's going right now is probably based off of what he did last year. And like you said, we all think he's going to take a step, forward. So he should be able to return value as long as he stays healthy. So, which he is.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know. It's a bit of a whip risk, right? So I think you got to be cognizant of that if you're planning on taking him. Maybe that's who you pair with Kirby. Obviously, he's the big whip guy. And I don't trust the White Sox at all. So obviously we're counting on a trade happening here, and if and when that does happen, he will go up. So I think now is the time to get him. And I think anybody leaving the White Sox organization is probably due to run into a better coaching and development staff. So yeah, I think it's a good buy right now.
I think even if he doesn't get dealt, he can still put up a 3.7 ERA with 230 strikeouts. I just think that's like still a really good pick after pick 100. I don't know. That's just me. I know the whip might be like 125 or whatever, but I still think he can put up like Robbie Ray like numbers pretty much. And that's just totally fine with me. Fish, why don't you go into your second buy? Toronto Blue Jays arm Jose Barrios.
Yeah, it's this isn't a guy that's gonna knock your socks off or anything. He's not like, oh God, I think he's gonna take a huge step forward. Like that's not really what I'm kind of taking with somebody like him. ADP 168 though, he's probably gonna be your SP4, I would guess. And the way I draft, I go so pitcher heavy early that a lot of my ratios are taken care of. I have a ton of strikeouts, and I need kind of a guy in that range that's going to, one, give me innings. He's averaged 184 over the last 3 seasons, so it's perfect. Outside of a horrendous 2022, he's been a pretty solid pitcher. So, if you're getting 180 innings out of him, you're probably getting about 180 strikeouts. And again, I don't think he's going to kill your ERA and WHIP like what happened in 2022. And he pitches for a good team. So, I think the wins are going to be pretty solid. So, to me, it's not that I think he's going to take a huge step forward. I just think it's perfect for my type of build.
Yeah, Barrios is just so reliable. Outside of 2022 was his down year. Outside of that, he's basically been good every year. So I don't really see the reason not to buy Barrios. Reggie, your second buy is my boy Vinny P, ADP 177. Why don't you go into a little detail? Because we talked about Vinny P already. So why don't you tell us why you like Vinny P?
Yeah, not much to say that hasn't probably already been said, but he's just going in a good spot this year. I actually had 0 Vinny P last year. I thought maybe the hype was getting a little too much. He was creeping up toward pick 100, and when you tend to get that high, there usually ends up being some better buys at first base a little bit later. So I had no Vinny P last year, but this year I think he's a great fallback option if you miss out on some of the other first basemen that you were hoping to get. I think Steamer has him projected for like a 277 average. I think he can beat that. I'm not concerned about his health. He's had plenty of time to get healthy and strong, and hopefully he'll be knocking in Bobby Witt all year. And I just think he's a great buy, a good batting average get here, and just he feels like a safe pick at least. So
yeah, I think so. Everyone's worried about him coming off the shoulder surgery, but I get that Tatis wasn't him fully himself, but he was still good. Corbin Carroll got the shoulder surgery. He was obviously great. I remember Jordan Lawler also got shoulder surgery last year, and he ended up putting up a monster minor. I know it's in the minors, but still. I don't know. Should we be as worried about shoulder injuries as everyone's like? I don't know. Are they as bad as everyone making them out to be?
Was it labrum for Pasquantino and most of those guys?
I don't know the exact shoulder surgery now.
Maybe it doesn't matter, but Logan O'Hoppe is another guy I think that came off a labrum surgery, returned last year, showed great power numbers. I think there's been videos circulating from last year of Vinny P hitting in the cage, looking like he was at full strength. So I'm willing to bet on him being ready to go.
Yeah, that's what Ryan and I were kind of talking about on our first base episode. Is once he's in a spring training game and he cracks a first home run, I think he's going to shoot up. I think people just need to see him in a game and see that he's healthy in order to have confidence in taking him earlier.
Yeah.
And yes, all of those players had torn labrums.
Torn labrum. I've had surgery on both my labrums, and I can't hit home runs, so I don't know if maybe that's a bad sign.
I blame the doctor for that.
Didn't work out for you. My second buy is going to be Jordan Walker, ADP 128. I think this kid's a future superstar. I know that's really not going out on a limb. He's one of the top prospects in baseball. He was going into last year. Something that really stuck out to me in his first 2 months in the big leagues, he was hitting almost 60% ground balls. Then Walker, in July, what he did with his approach, with his swing, I'm not sure, but I hadn't really seen anybody talk about this. His fly ball rate just skyrocketed, and the ground balls just went away. So in March/April, his ground ball rate was 60%. In June, it was 57%. Every other month after that, July, August, September, 42% ground ball, 44% fly ball, so more fly balls than ground balls. Then 42% ground ball, 36% fly ball. 1.18 ground ball to fly ball, which is actually great. And then again in September, he had more fly balls than ground balls, 41% fly ball, 37% ground ball. And in total, in the second half of the season, he had more fly balls than ground balls. This was Jordan Walker's literally only issue. He has 35 homer power. He is an insane athlete, as shown in his 81st percentile sprint speed, 97th percentile arm strength, and he's 6'6", 240. He can probably play in the NFL, and he's only 21 years old. I know he only had 16 home runs and 7 steals last year, but I think the fact that he basically skipped AAA, went straight to the majors, and made a huge adjustment like that in his age 21 season tells me that this is a superstar in the making, and I will have him on a ton of teams this year.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we always say, these young guys, like they're not a finished product. It's like the whole Bobby Witt thing last year, and people couldn't believe he was going in the first round. It's like, okay, his 2022 season, that's not a finished product. You know, it's that's essentially going to be the floor. So I could definitely see it with Jordan Walker. I don't have any of him yet. I think I'm just going elsewhere in that round, but obviously you can definitely see the upside with him. Mark,
Where's
do
he?
you have any?
No, I have no Walker. No, I'm open to it, but he hasn't been a target so far. Where's he going to slot in defensively? Is he mostly DH outfield?
I would imagine he plays outfield. Yeah. After getting rid of O'Neal, I'd imagine he plays outfield. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe I want to see him prove that he can hit the ball in the air for a longer period of time. He only had a 6.9% barrel over the course of last year. So I don't know. For me, I think I want to see it more, but maybe that means it's a good buying opportunity to grab him now.
Yeah, I just think the combination of to me, I really love max EV and strikeout rate going together. The fact that a 21-year-old had a 114 max EV with a 22% K is just ridiculous to me. And you factor in how good of an athlete he is. I could see him being taken in the 3rd or 4th round next year in drafts. But, you know, it is a gamble because he's never done it before. Fish. We're talking about a pitcher finally. I'm sorry, we talked about Cease. I'm a moron.
And
talking about Henberry, yes. I'm not even here. Your third buy. Nick Pivetta. Jason should love this or not love this because you're talking about Red Sox. But Nick Pivetta, ADP at 178. Why do you like Nick Pivetta so much?
I'll just keep this pretty simple. Obviously, he had an elite K per 9, and his swinging straight was elite. It was elite as well. So that combined with we've seen the flashes over the years, right? And I think it was 2021. I think it was 2021. I had a ton of shares of Nick Pivetta. I didn't have quite as much this past season. Did have some, but I love this price again right here. This is his Sierra. He had a 3.36 Sierra last year, and I think his second half Sierra was like top 3 in all of baseball. So this is a guy I'm buying. I love the strikeout rates. We've seen just moments of brilliance and flashes. I think he can. One of these years, I just hope he can put it all together. And I'm just going to keep buying until that happens. So I'm back in again this year.
Reggie, you got any thoughts on Pivetta?
Yeah, I like Pivetta. I got him in the draft with Fish. I thought you were going to take him. Actually, I was so glad that you let him go. I mean, if you're somebody who likes Stuff Plus, I'm looking at some stats here from @TJ Stats on Twitter. He's got like at least 3 or 4 pitches that grade out as potentially elite by Stuff Plus. Fastball 125 Stuff Plus, curveball 117, slider 124, sweeper 124. Was the sweeper a new pitch last year as well, I believe?
Yeah, I think he said he was throwing a new slider last year.
I think that may have been when he took off too. So yeah, I mean with Pivetta, that feels like a gamble too. I don't know if I want a ton of exposure, just knowing the way his career's gone. He's been so up and down. Mm-hmm. But man, he looked so good at the end of the year. I want some shares for sure.
Yeah, and a thing kind of reminds me of Giolito a bit, and I think that's who he's going to be if he actually did figure this out. He just still gives up so many home runs. 1.45 homers per 9 last year, despite being great. On top of the fact that if he was this good, so I know, and I like using those stuff metrics. I think more information is always a good thing. The fact that his stuff was that good and the fact that he dominated in the strikeout department, why was he not a full-time starter for the Red Sox? Like full-time, 5-6 inning, starting the game, the whole season. Like, am I the only one that is skeptical about that? It's just kind of confuses me why they did that with him.
Yeah, so I'm confused about it as well.
Well, he was by the end of the year, right? Or no?
I think he was, if I believe, yeah. So by the end of the year, September 6th, it basically took them for him to make 5 consecutive starts. The entire season, he was like he started at the beginning of the year, then he went full relief. Even if he went 5 or 6 innings, there was an opener, and then he pitched. Which again, what good starter in Major League Baseball does that? Literally 0 of them. So Nick Pivetta was the only one. And then he had in July and August, he had like an inning appearance. He threw 3 innings, and then he went back into relief right before he went a full-time starter. He had a 0.2 inning, 2 inning, and a 3 inning relief outings before he made 5 consecutive starts. Just absolutely bizarre shit that no good starting pitcher does in the league. So that's probably the reason why I have no shares. I don't know if like maybe he pitches better in a relief role, not like 2-3 inning relief, but maybe like opener comes in. Maybe he's more comfortable that way. But it's just I don't know, very strange to me that they would do that when they needed him because their starting pitching wasn't good last year.
Yeah, it's possible that these stuff numbers are a little inflated if he was going in shorter stints like that. But I mean,
Yeah.
they traded Sale, right? I feel like they're going to be counting on him, and some people are optimistic about the new pitching coach or pitching coordinator from the Twins that came over to Boston. So I think there's more to like than to be afraid of.
And it's not like you're paying up for him, right? He's going around pick 200. I feel like the risk is built in there.
Yeah, I got him as my actually SP4, so that's a pretty important pick. But I took him at 179, so you're gonna have to like him if you want to get him.
Absolutely. We're gonna go in order of ADP. So Reggie, I'm gonna skip to your 4th pick.
Okay.
That's Parker Meadows, ADP 289. Some people have him as a sleeper, so let's hear why you think that's a nice sleeper around pick 300.
Well, doing as many drafts as I have so far, he doesn't feel like that much of a sleeper. He's going up and up, and I think I'm gonna have to decide how long I want to stay on that train as he gets more expensive. But it's really just a bet on him being the everyday center fielder for the Tigers. It's still a bad park. He's still young, but the way I've built my teams, he's going in a range where I'm often looking for outfield and I'm often looking for speed. And if he is the everyday center fielder, which I think the defensive metrics suggest that he should be, and I don't see much competition on that Tigers roster, then he should be able to blow past that 15 steal projection and get at least 20 to 25. So I do think it's a little bit of a gamble still, and it's not a good park, not a good lineup. Who knows how much power is going to be there, but for now, where he's going, I think it's a good bet for some late speed.
Yeah, what really intrigued me about Meadows, my baseball savant is being incredibly slow right now. He had some pretty interesting power numbers, if I remember correctly, power metrics at least, that I didn't really know.
Yeah, good OBP too.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm gonna sound like an asshole because he doesn't have good power metrics. Well, I saw some. Well, I guess I'm just talking out of my ass. I thought I saw something on Parker Meadows. Maybe it was like his last month of the season or something. But unfortunately,
I think I think he underperformed his XBA. That's one thing I think he might be able to overperform his average projection as well. But yeah, 11% walk rate. I think a 25% K rate, and if I remember correctly, the swinging strike rate was only around 10%. So I think there might be some sneaky average there. I don't know. He seems like a good athlete. I like him right now, and I might just keep drafting him.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what it was from September 15th to the end of the season. I guess I get that's only 15 games, but he had 4 barrels in his last 6 games. 90% average EV, 9% swinging strike rate, 85% zone contact, 29% O swing. Stood out to me as like maybe figure something out. Because again, this was a rookie that only played 37 games, and he went 2020 in AAA last year. So yeah, just adding on to what you were saying, I think this is a sneaky power speed threat that is going to play a bunch. You have any shares of Meadows Fish?
Yes, I have not a ton, maybe 2 or 3 shares. I think they're mostly Gladiator shares, if I remember correctly. But yeah, no, power speed combo going at where he's going is always going to be something I'm interested in. So yeah, I like that call.
So going to my third player, ADP is at 167. It's Max Muncy. For me, adding Otani to that lineup, he's just going to have so many RBIs hitting behind Otani, Freeman, and Betts. All those guys have plus OBPs. They're always on base. And Muncy had 105 RBIs as it is and still missed like 25 games or so. Still managed 105 RBIs. It's kind of funny. Steamer has him projected for 77 RBIs. I'd put a couple thousand on over 77 RBIs unless he like breaks his arm or something. I don't know how he's going to possibly have that little of RBIs, but hopefully that's the reason why his ADP isn't where it probably should be. A lot higher. It's just hard to find a 35 home run. And it's not like Jake Berger where he's only hit around 35 homers once. Max Muncy's done this 4 times, 35 homers. And I get that the average was really bad last year, but in the second half of the season, he did hit 222, and his XBA on the year was 235. And I understand, well, 235 still sucks. It does, but if Max Muncy can hit 235 with 35 homers and like 115, 120 RBIs, that is a smash for me, at least, a round pick. 170. That's just I'll be taking him all day there if he stays in that range. What do you two think of Muncy?
Yeah, we were talking in our DM earlier today about him, and I have now 11 shares of him. So I'm obviously on board as well. It's just where he's going by the you have where I think I got him in the 15th round today. So and now that's a max pick. So you probably looking at maybe 14th round, maybe even 13th in some drafts. But it gives you at least 12 rounds to establish your batting average and your stolen bases where you are able to take somebody like this. And this goes back to my style of drafting. This is why I take stolen bases early, and it's why I take aces early, because there's so many power hitters that are available in these middle rounds. And what better example than Max Muncy? Like you said, Otani in the lineup, he's going to have a whole bunch of on-base guys. The lineup is it's fairly deep. Muncy walks a lot too. Now, I generally don't like my power hitters walking, but with him walking so much, it allows his run total to stay up as well. So you're getting an elite 3 category guy. Obviously, there's going to be some batting average downfall, but again, you have the whole first half of your draft essentially to prepare for that and be ready for where you're able to take them. So, yeah, if you have your batting average and stolen bases looking good, it's a great pick.
Yeah, I have not taken Muncy yet, and I don't plan on targeting him. That said, I think most people are maybe overrating the impact a bad batting average from one player can really have on your team, and because of that, he's falling. Like in our draft, like obviously everybody was ignoring him, and that's why you got him so cheap. And you're not going to find 30 plus homers and 100 RBIs that late very often. So from that standpoint, I think it's a good pick, but the last 3 years he has underperformed his XBA. 2022, he had a 208 XBA and he hit 196. 2021, 271 XBA, which is nuts, but he still hit 249. So I don't know if we can count on more than a 220 average. I think if you get that with 35 homers and 100 RBIs, you're still fine with it. So yeah, if you got the build for it, I think it's a good pick.
So tell me, what What do any of you think the difference? Either of you think the difference is between him and Kyle Schwarber?
Schwarber's probably got a little bit more power, but yeah, no, I definitely agree. They're very similar. I mean, low batting average, 3 categories.
There's a 70 pick difference between the two. I don't see any difference between the two of them.
Yeah,
well, I have both of them on this current DC. So how do you think my batting average is doing?
Yeah, and I have 0 shares of both of them, so I look at them similarly too.
So Fish, let's go into your 4th buy. Detroit Tigers, another Detroit Tigers outfielder. We're almost covering their entire outfield.
Yeah.
ADP of 180, Riley Green. Why are you so into Riley Green at that price?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are concerned about his surgery. He's coming off his surgery, but it sounds like everything he should be good to go by opening day. So I think he's another one who's just going too low. I mean, last year he had 288 and had 11 home runs and 7 stolen bases and only 378 at bats. This guy's pretty big prospect. He's going to hit an elite spot in the lineup, playing every day. So I think if you're getting a good batting average and you're getting a nice little power speed combo there, I don't think 280, 20 home runs and 15 steals is really out of the question. And where he hits in the lineup, you're looking at probably at least 160 runs and RBIs. So yeah, sign me up for that all day at roughly 180 ADP.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of Riley Green. I had a ton of shares last year. He ended up getting hurt, and it's funny, in all of my fab leagues, literally 100% of them, I picked up Riley Green when he came back. The injury and just like you said, the potential of a high batting average, power speed, and another guy that I just thought would go higher. I'm surprised his ADP isn't like 30, 40, 50 picks higher, just because of the upside and what he did last year when he was healthy.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what we were saying at the very beginning with drafting DCs early. Like, you're getting deals now because in March, if Vinny Pasquantino and Riley Green are, roping balls, they're going to go up probably 2-3 rounds. So, it's there's positives and there's negatives to drafting early. Obviously, sure, you could get an injury. I remember a couple of years ago, I lost a couple of guys because they end up going overseas play, they went to Japan to play or whatever, and obviously that can happen. But was it last year? I think it's Kyle Seager. I know it was Kyle Seager. Was it last year that he retired? I had a couple shares, and then all of a sudden he retired, kind of out of nowhere. So yeah, obviously it can happen where it doesn't work out, but you can get some good buys like Riley Green.
Reggie, you got any Riley Green in early drafts?
Just 1 share in a 50, but I love him as a player and as a prospect. I've always been high on him. He's still so young, and the reports on him coming up were so glowing, and I think he's going to be a great player. I'm a little bit concerned, obviously, the park, the lineup,
Mm-hmm.
the power for him specifically. He might need a little bit of help from a park to get a decent home run total, but he just looks like a plus offensive player, and I think he's going to keep getting better. So I'm definitely open to drafting him for sure.
Watchlist Mafia says, any Matt McClain talk? When we're done with our buys, we're going to do a quick round table on whether or not we would draft Matt McClain at his current price. So once we're done, we each have one more buy. We'll talk about Matt McClain real quick, just for you. Sorry, go ahead.
Waxman wants to hear about my shoulder surgeries. I know he likes to hear like personal anecdotes. We can all talk about like our favorite color if we want, just for Zach.
I'm a big blue guy. I like the color blue.
That's a good one. Nice.
Going over Reggie, it's your turn. Your fourth buy, Chris Paddock. I'd love to hear. I have no interest in Chris Paddock, so I'd love to hear why you want Chris Paddock at pick 320. Even though it's a good price, but why are you interested in Chris Paddock at around 320?
Just the way he looked at the end of the year when he came back from injury, and there was a lot of pretty sensational quotes coming out of the the Twins front office and coaching staff about how excited they are about him. I think they gave him an extension maybe while he was injured because they really believe in him.
I
I got some,
believe they did, yeah.
yeah, I got some quotes here. President of Baseball Ops said, "We saw a guy we're really excited about. We feel good about his future with us." When he came back in AAA, he topped out at 98.2 miles per hour. That's faster than any pitch he's ever thrown in the majors. And another quote from pitching coach Pete Mackey. Long and short of it, this guy's been a very good major league pitcher. We still expect this guy to be a guy, someone who we rely on to give quality innings every 5 or 6 days, independent of how well he did with us at the end. So it's a gamble. I know he had some rough moments. He had some ups and downs after he came up with the Padres, but like he's built like a horse and he's throwing harder than ever before. I think it's a good bet where he's going in like the 330s to take a stab and see if you can hit the jackpot.
And this is why we have you on, because I didn't know any of that stuff. So perfect.
That's right.
Learned something new. Fish, any Chris Paddock early on so far?
No, I was actually just going to look. I don't have any, but I know I was at least considering him in one draft. I did know about him topping out at 98, so that was obviously intriguing. But I do not have any yet. No.
No, I had no idea. I had never heard. I did not hear he was throwing that hard, and I also didn't see those quotes about how much the Twins really liked him. Really good stuff there. My fourth buy is going to be Carlos Rodon, around pick 169. Yes, I know he was god awful last year, and there's no reason, looking at his stats, for you to think that you're buying Carlos Rodon. This is purely just a recent track record play for me. He had a strained left forearm in March, before the season even started. Then he was out for 2 months with that. He came back. He pulled a hamstring in August. He had, the Yankees were saying he had back issues. So just the guy that always gets hurt. This is my fear of Tyler Glasnow, by the way. Tyler Glasnow finally stays healthy. And then once you're buying, like everyone did with Rodon, then everything fucking falls apart. But anyway, we're on Carlos Rodon, not Glasnow. With these pitchers that are really up and down, like Cease, like Rodon, like Luis Severino, I really like to buy when the price is good. So a guy as talented as Carlos Rodon, this was his 2 years, 2021 and 2022 combined. 12 Ks per 9, 2 walks per 9, a .99 whip, and a 2.67 ERA. In 2021, he had 185 strikeouts, and he missed 8 starts. And in 2022, he pitched a full season, which I'm obviously not expecting, but still, he had 237 strikeouts. He was essentially a top 2 pitcher in baseball. It's basically like Grom 1, Rodon 2 between 21 and 22. And I just think without injuring 3 different parts of his body, hopefully he doesn't injure 3 parts of his body next year, I think a fully healthy offseason, fully healthy spring training, even if he gives me 20 to 24 starts, I don't really care. He doesn't have to pitch a full season. I think if he returns to form, this is the best value of the entire board. Any thoughts, either of you, on Cy Rodon?
Yeah, there he is. I won't mention who that is, but
everybody watching, everybody that knows him knows who that is.
World Series champion Red Sox 04 certainly loves him this year. I have one share of Rodon, so I didn't want to admit it because I think now that I'll probably grab another fine from Jason. But I have one share, but I don't anticipate really having much more, especially when we get to the March and the big drafts. Just too many injuries. I think if he's throwing well in spring, he's going to shoot way up as well. So I'm definitely going to be out when he shoots up. So he's going to have to fall pretty far for me to grab another share.
Yeah, I'm with DuPont. 200 innings, bank it. You should have 100% exposure. No, in all seriousness, I do have one share at pick 200 and a gladiator. Um, so yeah, I'll probably stay away, but I agree. If he looks healthy in the spring, he will shoot way, way up, and I think I'll probably just let other people take that chance.
Yeah, I think in Fab leagues, I'm gonna have close to 100%. I just think the upside is just ridiculous, and there's just no way he's as bad as he was last year. Sure, there's a chance like he gets Tommy John surgery and he goes out for the year because he had that forearm strain, never got surgery or anything to repair it. It could be something minor, it could be something major, who knows? So like I'm fully expecting I could waste a pick at 170, but it's something I'm willing to do in a Fab league because I could just drop him.
Yeah,
What if you pick Nick Pavetta 180 and he stinks like he has the previous 3 years? It's kind of the same thing to me. But
yeah.
Rodon just has that ridiculous ceiling where, again, he was a top 2 pitcher in baseball for almost 2 full seasons. So I think for that reason, I think it's well worth the risk. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a build dependent thing. I'm usually taking pitchers early and then maybe looking for volume around where he's going. If I decided to go for a build where I'm taking a couple of hitters early and I need that upside, then I think that's when you look at Rodon and Sale and hope you hit on one of them. But the way I've been building my teams, I just haven't been looking his way.
Fish, so we're a little long, so we're going to try to go a little bit quicker through our last round of buys. Fish, you pick Mitch Garver, ADP 210. Let us know why you like Big Money Mitch so far.
Yeah, I love him as my C2. I didn't have any shares in 2023 because he was coming off that injury, but I had a bunch in 2022. Of course, he got hurt. And then, of course, he comes back last year and was great. So now I'm back in again in 2024. 12.6 barrel, 113.2 max EV, cut his K rate again to 23.8. And he's hopefully going to be a full-time DH now. I'm sure he'll still get some spot starts at catcher, but yeah, sign me up for Mitch Garver as my C2.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. He's going to play and hit home runs. Reggie, really deep call here. I like it, though. Guardians reliever Scott Barlow, ADP 479. Why are you so interested in Scott Barlow?
I don't know if I'd say so interested, but if we want, I can group him and my other late dart here to get that out of the way if we want to move through quick. But for me, Barlow is just the Guardians went out and traded for him. There's quotes, I think from the GM or somebody saying that they deliberately went out to get him to give Clase a breather more often. Let me find this quote here real quick.
No, I did see that. And also the fact that Class A's in trade talks really
Exactly.
helps.
Yeah. Yeah, so Cleveland was first in the majors last year in save opportunities with 81, and they were first in the league in blown saves with 34. So yeah, as Chris Antonetti said, it gives us another option on the days when Clase isn't available or maybe a little bit fatigued. We'll have another option. So that quote combined with Clase being on the block and Barlow going close to pick 500, even if you get 10 saves out of that pick, I think it's worth it. So it's a gross one, but I think it's one you shouldn't ignore. And then I guess I'll touch on, unless you guys got more, I'm sure you don't have a lot to say about Scott Barlow, but I can
No,
throw
I
out.
mean I understand the pick, but yeah, go over your. You can talk about your sixth guy.
Yeah, so this is just a random late DC dart. Spencer Arrighetti for Houston. I think he's a hidden gem right now that should be getting drafted a lot more. I'm almost hesitant to bring him up, but trying to bring it for the boys on the pod here. Quote from Dana Brown on a podcast December 14th. They asked him for who could be a potential rookie of the year candidate for them, or maybe finish top 10 rookie of the year. First guy he said was Spencer Arrighetti. Quote says, really good. We think maybe he can turn the corner. Maybe he'll come into spring training and light us up, maybe early enough to be a rookie of the year candidate. He's one of the guys that I feel really good about. He's got good traits to his stuff. He's a competitor. He throws a lot of strikes. So I think when you look into him, he profiles more of maybe like a number 4 starter with some reliever risk, but that's a profile that the Astros have proven to be able to get a lot out of and turn into full-time starters. So not a crazy high upside pick, but this guy's not even being drafted, and I think that's crazy.
Yeah, that's a good late DC pick. Graham and I were all in on Spencer Arrighetti in dynasty leagues last year.
Nice.
I have a lot of him in dynasty leagues. His upside is like Joe Musgrove, whereas velo isn't high. He's got a bunch of pitches, so is the kitchen sink at you, and he could either be a decent 5 starter or turn out to be Joe Musgrove. We've seen the Astros do crazier things, but I really like that call. My fifth buy is going to be, it's sort of along the lines of Carlos Rodon, a track record type of play, and that's Eloy Jimenez. I just can't really believe that he's going around pick 240. Understand that he's util eligible and that he's injury prone, all those things, but this is like a 280, 25 to 30 homer bat when he's healthy. Again, I understand that 2019 is the only season where he was somewhat healthy and the power played to what you expected. But in 2022, second half of the season, he was healthy and he dominated. Last year, power wasn't there. He had 18 home runs. I don't think at 26 years old he just forgot how to play baseball. I mean, his strikeout rate goes down every single year. It literally has gone from 26% to 24.8, 24.7, 22. Last year it was 19. His max EV is no lower than it's always been. And his career barrel rate is 8.6 per plate appearance. Last year it was 7. I just think at 27 years old, maybe he's a full-time DH. And if he is, maybe that allows him to stay healthy. And he hits 30 home runs and it's 280. I see this as like young JD Martinez potentially. And I'm going to have a lot of Eloy Jimenez on teams that I don't have Ohtani on, pretty much. I don't know about you two. If you want to go over real quick, if you care drafting those util only guys, and maybe touch on Eloy a little bit.
I don't care at that stage of the draft for sure. I'd rather not take one early in the draft. I mean, obviously Otani is going to be util only, but he's a little bit of a different type of player. But I have a ton of Eloy in Gladiators because obviously in Gladiators you draft and that's it. Like you don't have to do any, moving of the players. So I have 6 out of my 15 Gladiators I've done. I have Eloy on, and then I just took him in this DC that Mark and I are in. So yeah, I'm on board with that price. I mean, how can you not be? This guy's. It's rare to have a big power hitter with good average, and I think that kind of like you were saying, Brian. I think that he's a steal where he's going.
Yeah, I got one Eloy only in a 50. Totally agree with everything you guys already laid out there. I can't help but I don't know, I have these images of him like running to first base awkwardly and just like exploding all of his muscles somehow. I just can't. I don't know, man. Like he's so awkward and unathletic, but he is an incredible hitter. So I do like the pick, and it's because of the util only, right? I'm totally cool with taking a stab at it, Eloy or Buxton or JD in that range, depending on what you need. Because exactly like you said, if he plays any amount of games, that's reasonable. It doesn't have to be a full season. It's going to be average in power that you're going to be really glad to have.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Watchlist Mafia said any Matt McClain talk. We told them we talked about Matt McClain. I don't know who wants to go first, but have either of you drafted any Matt McClain this year? I know I've only done 3 drafts. I don't have any Matt McClain, but what about either of you?
Yes, I definitely have some, including this current draft. It seems like we're talking about my current draft that we're doing here. Yeah, I like Matt McClain. Second base, shortstop eligible, power speed combo, hits in that park, that lineup. He's got a lot of things going for him. I don't know if the 290 average sticks. I do have some not huge concerns, but definitely some concerns. I don't think he's a 290 hitter, but yeah, I like McClain.
No McLean for me so far. I'm just, I mean, he probably has as secure playing time as anyone on the Reds right now with how good he played last year, but just the current construction of that team kind of scares me away. I feel like, and maybe this doesn't apply to McLean, but I feel like a lot of their at bats are going to be capped, even even if India gets traded, and like you said, maybe some average risk, 28.5K percentage, maybe some questionable plate discipline. That said, I think the park and the lineup and the speed and the power are going to make him a good pick. Maybe for me, it's just a little bit too high.
Yeah, he is going around pick. His ADP is 63 since December 1st. That is high, but I do like the fact that he only played 29 games in A-ball, 100 games at AA, 40 games at AAA. So he flew through the minor leagues, even though he's 23 years old. That's not like ridiculously young like some other guys that come up when they're 20, 21, 22. But he hardly played in the minor leagues and just flew through those three levels. So the fact that he was able to come up to the majors, have a 128 WRC plus, granted, it was a 385 BABIP that buoyed that. The fact that he's such a great athlete and plays in Great American Ballpark, which is awesome for BABIP. I don't think it's going to go that much lower. I think he can probably handle a 340-ish BABIP. And like you said, Fish, he's not going to hit 290, but still, if he hits 260, 270 with that power speed combo, I don't see anything wrong with the pick there, even if he's going maybe a touch high.
Yeah.
I call it Great American Small Park. I don't know if you've heard that one before. I think I just came up with that, but
wow.
It's because the park is small, so that one's for free.
Oh wow, that's almost as good as the Spencer Arrighetti call.
That's right.
Reggie, why don't you start us off with your sells at ADP with, we got to go, another Great American Small Park player, Spencer Steer, ADP 104. Why are you fading the Cincinnati Reds utility guy?
Yeah, so same reasons I kind of just outlined. I think they have enough good players right now that I just think maybe they're going to get a few random days off here to keep everyone fresh or to mix and match lineups. And 104 for Spencer Steer just feels real early. It's a nice profile, it's okay average with some power and some speed. I just don't think you need to spend that much draft capital on this profile. And there's no more at-bats left on the infield for him, so he's going to be a full-time outfielder, it looks like. We'll see how he handles that. I don't know. I'm not interested in at all in Spencer Steer, and I will have 0 shares.
Yes. So one of the reasons why I am absolutely not drafting Spencer Steer, something you touched on a bit, the playing time, he has to hit to stay in that lineup. We got Noelvi Marte, Ellie, McLean, Christian Encarnacion Strand, Anheimer Candelario, and Will Benson, and Jake Fraley. Like, these are all good players. Spencer Steer has to hit to stay in the lineup. And even though he's got a good max EV, good strikeout rate, and he did hit well last year, I'm just not super into the profile, and he's just not a player that I'm really interested in paying for. But Fish, I briefly heard you. You said you don't have any shares either?
No, I just said I agree. I have no shares and
Okay.
pretty much a fade for me as well.
Great. We will go to, I think we have one of our first disagreements here. Fish fading Gunnar Henderson, ADP 29. Why don't you go into that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really high pick here. So it's an important pick. It's at the 2-3 turn. I don't know. It's just there's just not enough there for me to like. He's a nice player. He's a good player, but a middling batting average and 25 home runs and 10 steals just doesn't do it for me there. I need a lot more steals or a lot more home runs. I do like that he's third base and shortstop, I believe, eligible. But Yeah, I don't know. I just it's just not a pick for me.
Reggie, what do you think about Gunner having to
I
take him in
took
the second or third round?
I took Gunner in my first DC at pick 25, and it didn't feel great. It does feel early, but I mean he's such a sick prospect, and that back half of the second round is kind of dicey. I don't like being there. There's nobody I really love clicking on, so I end up on Gunner here, and maybe I will again. I mean, he's going to hit at the top of the lineup. I think he's going to get better. He's going to score 100 runs. He could get 100 RBIs too, maybe, and the power and some speed. So I'm okay with it. I don't want too much of him, but I definitely don't want to say Gunnar Henderson is not a good player.
Yeah, I just think the talent is off the charts. From June until the end of the year, 53% hard hit rate, one of the highest in the league, 114 max EV, 12% barrel rate, and his slash line, again from June to the end of the year, was 276 batting average, 322 OBP, 534 slugging, 23 bombs, and 8 stolen bases, about 70 runs and 70 RBIs, not counting the first 2 months of the season. He was a rookie, and I know he played a little bit the year before, but he really struggled in spring training and in April to make contact. And I think as the season went on, only had an 11% swinging strike the last 4 months. I think this guy's, again, it's not a bold take or anything. I think he's a superstar in the making, and I could easily see 35 homers, shit ton of counting stats. Yeah, maybe he hits 260 with 10 steals, 12 steals, and that isn't ideal in the second round, but I think he's going to make up for it in home runs and counting stats. My first fade is going to be Cincinnati Reds closer Alexis Diaz. He was very, very bad in the second half of the season. And his ADP is 65 right now. And I feel like we're just ignoring this horrendous second half that he had. His K rate in the first half was 37%, elite. But that's entirely buoyed on the first 2 months of the season. So this is K rate by month, 56% in April, 44% in May, and then in June, 25%, July, 23%, August, 23%, September, 15%. Oh, and on top of that, his walk rate in September was 15%. So in the first half of the season, 37% K, 12% walk. Second half of the season, 20% K, 14% walk. His xFIP was 5.7 the second half of the season. And basically from June on, he was bad. But not even bad. He was horrendous. Anything near a 6 FIP, being healthy as far as I know, it's just not someone I even want to draft, let alone as a top 70 pick. So I think it's pretty crazy that he's being drafted so high just because of the first 2 months of the season.
Yeah, I agree completely. I will not be drafting Alexis Diaz. Again, I'm looking at the TJ stats stuff plus numbers here. He's a 2-pitch guy, fastball slider. What would you guess his fastball velocity is if you haven't looked at it already?
Like 95-ish.
94.5. Not super hard for a closer, right? And what would you guess his stuff plus on his slider is?
110.
75.
Oh, God.
And the conditional formatting says very blue. And so, yeah, no, I'm not interested in Diaz at all. I think he's going way too high, and I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, as looking at his month by month slider whiff rates, again it was 48%, down to 46, then down to 42, then down to 33, then in September it was 22. So that is a pitch that either hitters just got used to the arm angle that he had or something. I don't know, but everyone figured out Alexis Diaz, and I think he's going to have a very bad year next year. who went first? Reggie, you went first. So let's do your second sell at ADP, and it's Dodgers closer Evan Phillips, pick 108. Why are you not into Evan Phillips?
Mostly just because there's plenty of news out there that indicates the Dodgers are out there looking for another high leverage reliever, including Clase and Hader. It seems like there's a decent chance one of those two might end up on the Dodgers. And even still, so it's pick 108. That's too early given that risk and given that he still only had 24 saves last year. I mean, he's an awesome pitcher. His whip was insane. He's going to be good on a per inning basis. I think you're hoping for more than 24, 25 saves if you're taking a closer that early. And there's a chance he gets fewer than 10 if they make another acquisition. So I don't know how high the save ceiling is, and it's just too early of an ADP for me.
Fish, have any Evan Phillips so far?
Yeah, I do have. I have Gladiator shares. I don't think I have any DC shares. Again, Gladiator is just a different game, though. Like you're just looking for. To me, you're looking for 20 plus saves where he's going, and obviously, elite ratios. Hopefully, some wins because he's going to be pitching in high leverage situations. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with. Who knows? A lot of things are going to change once Hader signs, right? That's kind of like the final piece we need to happen here. Jordan Hicks to a lesser extent, but yeah, I usually have a closer before he goes off the board, and I generally like to just go with one closer and then kind of wait a little bit, and then play the guessing game, I guess, in the middle rounds of DC. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's a fade for me, but he's definitely not a target.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of pick for me that it's. I think it's smarter to take him once that closer situation. Like it's if the Dodgers don't acquire Clase or Hader, then I'd be okay with taking Phillips. But like Reggie said, if they trade for Clase or pick up Hader, then he's not the closer anymore. So it's a very risky pick around pick 100 for sure. Fish, another high fade for you. ADP 37, George Kirby. Why are you fading the Seattle Mariners starting pitcher?
Okay, so it's basically just a lack of case for me. Obviously, I think he's a really, really good pitcher. I just want more strikeouts for where he's going. I don't know. To me, what's the difference between him and Logan Webb? Like you're getting a lot of innings, you're getting elite ratios, and you're getting not the greatest K rate for an ace, basically. So basically, the only way I would take George Kirby is if I could pair him with somebody like Spencer Strider in the first round. Like if I went Strider, a hitter in the middle of second or whatever, and then I could see taking Kirby at that point. But and maybe there's another level to him, that I'm just not seeing. But I like to see, I don't know. To me, like where he's getting taken, he's probably a lot of people's SP1, and I just don't want to have my SP1 with a low K total. So that's just kind of what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I won't have him on any teams. And also, it's like the walk rate is 2% last year.
It's not sustainable.
That's like historic levels of walk rate. He never did that one time in his career,
Mhm.
even in the minor leagues. That's just a lot to bank on. And again, you're not like he doesn't have to do that to return value again. But I just think there's some regression coming there. I think there's some regression coming with his ERA. He had a 3.3 ERA in back-to-back seasons. What are the chances this guy has 3.3 ERA or lower every year of his career? So I do think there is some regression there, even though he's a solid pitcher. I don't think he's a third-round pick. Reggie, real quick, you got any Kirby so far in draft season?
I got Kirby in 2 of my 3 DCs, and I am totally fine with taking him. In the draft with Fish, I went Pablo Kirby as my first 2 pitchers. I think that walk rate, I mean, maybe not 2%, but this guy is like a command and control god. Like he's going to maintain a super low whip. I think the same way that you're looking for like batting average anchors on the hitting side, he can be a whip anchor, and I think that's something that can be a little bit underrated. I mean, he's still projected for 180 Ks. That's not elite, but that's pretty solid. And I think I think he's capable of getting more whiffs if he's willing to go outside of the zone more often. He's never demonstrated a willingness to do that, so I'm not counting on it. But I don't know. Good park, good command. Seems like he's been real durable, throws hard. I like him, and I'll keep taking him when I get the chance.
I like that you took him as your SP2, right? So like you got
Sure,
Pablo
yeah.
Lopez, who now, showed last year the ability to put up a high, K total. And I think he developed a sweeper as well. So, yeah, so like you get him as your SP2. So I like that, quite a bit. But let me ask you, what is the difference that you see between him and Logan Webb, who goes roughly in the 5th round?
To be honest, I've sort of neglected Logan Webb, so I can't say that I have a hard comparison off the top of my head, but you might be absolutely right that it's a similar profile that you can get later. Maybe I'm just telling myself there's a smidge more upside because Kirby is still young, and I think he throws harder, and I do think there could be another level there. But I got nothing against Logan Webb. I just haven't looked his way yet.
Yeah, the thing that I do like about Kirby is that he has a really, really good fastball. And even though he doesn't have like any standout secondaries, that is usually something that comes with age, getting more comfortable with your secondaries. So I do think there is the upside for more strikeouts there. It's just I like the pitcher. It's just the price for me. I can't take him. I can't take him in the 3rd round. My second sell is going to be Estieri Ruiz, ADP 128. This is just a layup for me. I think he's fucking terrible at baseball. I don't know how he could possibly be taken. Like, I wouldn't even take him at 350, let alone 128. He was benched at the end of last year. I don't know if people actually paid attention to baseball in September, but he was benched. He was a platoon bat. He started here and there, but he wasn't an everyday player by the end of the year on the worst team we have maybe ever seen in our lifetime. So I don't get how you could take him even close to pick 100. Sorry if any of the Ruiz family is watching this stream right now. If I just insulted your son, nephew, cousin, I just don't. I don't get it.
No, I don't either. No shares, not even in consideration. I love seeing him go off the board.
Yeah, no chance. He's brutal. He's not an everyday MLB player. He was an okay pick last year. Like in an auction, I got him for a couple bucks, and banking those steals and dropping them worked beautifully. But yeah, he proved that, like you said, he couldn't even crack the A's lineup at the end of the year. He is just not a great player at all, and no chance I will draft Estieri Ruiz.
Yeah, 86 WRC plus last year, 14 points worse than league average, and he was a negative defensive player. So if he's not playing Gold Glove defense, how in the hell is he getting in any lineup? I have no idea. Reggie, your 3rd fade this is an interesting one. I'm interested to hear your reasoning. Henry Davis, the hopeful catcher-eligible player for the Pittsburgh Pirates. ADP is 259. Why are you not into Henry Davis at that price?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to go out on a limb a little bit here because I've seen some very good drafters who are better players than me go this route for their C2. For me, I just think there's a little more risk than people are acknowledging or even aware of. Specifically when it comes to how soon he'll get that catcher eligibility. I mean, he was a number 1 overall pick, and I'm sure that they were imagining him being a catcher when they took that pick, and they ended up moving him to the outfield because he was not good behind the plate. I dug up an old quote here from an Athletic article. It's the classic, unnamed rival evaluator, but it says he definitely needs work in right field, but catching is not going to happen. And so the article basically says that these 3 evaluators all agreed that this guy is not a big league catcher. Now, I know Andy's hurt. and the Pirates have came out and said that this guy's going to be our catcher, and I'm not saying I don't believe them, but can he handle catching and hitting well while he's making that adjustment? How soon is he going to get catcher eligibility, and what does that do to your draft plan when you take him as an outfielder and you have to wait for him to gain that catcher eligibility? I would rather not introduce that risk into my draft plan. That said, you can see how he could end up being maybe like a mini Dalton Varsho because he's got a little bit of speed. So I could see it working out, but for me, it's just a risk that I'm not willing to take.
Fish, you have any Henry Davis?
I don't. I thought about taking. I definitely had no interest before Endy got hurt. Once he got hurt, my interest was peaked. I generally have 2 catchers before he goes, though. So, no, I would never draft him and play him in the outfield. I think there's just that he loses like so much value there. So I think if you're taking him, I think you need that. He needs to gain catcher eligibility. And you know, like Mark was saying, like Pittsburgh says that he's going to catch, so that could happen. But again, I usually have my catchers before that. So
yeah, I think that's my main issue is that I usually have my catchers before then, and I don't know, kind of like Mark said, I expect them to sign someone like Yasmani Grandal or someone along the lines of that. I know the Pirates are usually bad; they're a bad team. But I feel like they want some type of veteran presence behind the dish. And I could see like maybe Henry Davis starts off catching, then slowly like gravitates towards the outfield by a guy like Grandal or whoever, insert veteran catcher here that handles the pitching staff. Because again, like you said, it's hard for a young kid to, just going back and forth between catcher and outfield. He's got to learn how to catch now, learn the pitching staff, and focus on hitting. It's a lot more than we really make it out to be. So I don't mind that fade there of Henry Davis. Fish, your third selection is one of the best players of all time. Mike Trout, ADP 70. Unfortunately, it looks like he's past his peak. He's only like 32 years old. It's crazy that he's fallen off like this, but just can't stay healthy. What are your reasons for fading Trout?
yeah, it's just the injury history, and he doesn't run anymore. Those are the 2 main things. I mean, he's been hurt every year for I don't know how many years now. It's like it's one thing after another. So I'm out, but I do understand why people are in because he probably only needs to play. His barrel rates and all that stuff is still great. So he probably only needs to play like 120 games to return value here. But I think it's a given he's going to get hurt. I just don't know when it's going to happen. If it happens early in the season, then you're really going to be screwed. And it's still a valuable pick there at ADP of 70. Another thing I don't like is 3 years in a row now. His K rate is pretty concerning. It's high 20s, and yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. You would think that like you said, he's only 32, so you'd think he would still be, pretty well in his, not necessarily in his prime, but still an elite player. But yeah, it's a combination of all those things. High pick, so I'm out.
Yeah, I can't really argue with anything there. I just can't believe the strikeout rate it's gotten like out of control. Because even when he didn't steal, he used to be like a 300 hitter that could hit 45 home runs, and now that seems to be out the window. Reggie, you in it? The Trout discount at all?
No, not yet. Yeah, how about a 76% zone contact rate? Like what happened to his hit tool? Maybe I want one share. I mean, he's still Mike Trout. He still crushes the ball. He's still, like you said, one of the best players we've ever seen. 15% barrel rate. I think he can get to 40 homers if he stays relatively healthy. So I haven't done it yet, and I'm not saying I will, but I could see grabbing a share and hoping you get a little bit of vintage Trout for a while.
Yeah, I mean, really all he has to do is stay healthy, but it's not something he's really done at all. But especially with the back problems they said that are going to be an issue for the rest of his career. those could pop out at any time, and that's just it's a risk, even though he's severely discounted. He's been going, he's a first, second round pick basically his entire career, right? And this is the first year he isn't. Maybe he was third round last year, but every other year he's the first or second round pick.
And every other year he's been a fade for me. I'm just continuing the trend. I'm pod committed now. I'm all in.
Yeah.
So
you might as well fade him until he fucking retires. My third fade, I did mine a little bit out of order in ADP, but I'll just go in order how they're written down. My third fade is going to be Kyle Harrison. It is interesting to me that in the minor leagues from June until right before he got called up, he had a 33% K and an 11% walk rate. So he really cut down the walks. That being said, in those 9 starts in AAA, he had a 5.8 FIP, a 1.48 WHIP, and I know he plays in a hitter-friendly park, but the walks are outrageous. 2021, and I get that he's very young. This is as a 19-year-old, but 4.7 walks per 9. 2022 at AA, 4.18 walks per 9. 2023 in AAA, 6.58 walks per 9. And he has a bit of a home run issue, which is never anything you want to see in the minor leagues. And again, I know he pitched in a hitter-friendly park, but so did Brandon Pfaadt. And it was like, oh, well, he has a home run issue, but it's the ballparks. Then he comes to the major leagues. Oh, he has a home run issue. And in the 7 starts that Kyle Harrison made in the major leagues, he gave up 2.1 homers per 9. Shocker. Again, small sample, but in his 34 innings, which is about enough for Stuff Plus to stick, he had a 95 stuff, 99 location. His fastball is an above average pitch. Everything else is below average. Even the slurve, his basically out pitch, only had a 24% whiff rate, which is not good at all for an out pitch. And if you look at his game logs from last year, I think he's only getting drafted this high because of the one really good start he made against the Reds, where he struck out 11 in 6 innings. Outside of that, he no-hit the Dodgers, but he only pitched 5 innings. He really had he had one start where he went more than 5 innings. And even if you look at his minor league game logs, he does not go deep into games. He throws a lot of pitches. Could this be Robbie Ray in 3 or 4 years? Sure. But he's 22 years. He's still very young. And seeing those astronomical walk rates, I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the minor leagues again halfway through next year. So I just I don't get the ADP, and I'm not even sold that he's going to be a good pitcher next year. And yeah,
I think you just convinced me. I was open to him. I haven't taken him yet, but I did like him as a prospect a bit. But he didn't really get much whiffs, it looks like, when he came up. And like you said, with the walk problems, I don't know if he's going to be able to manage a whip under 1.2 like he did last year. And you were spot on when you said that his fastball was his only above average pitch. That's what Stuff Plus says as well. He also, for a while in the minors, was really only going 3-4 innings at a time because he was so inefficient. That said, I can see it if you really believe in him taking a step forward, because he did have some pretty good reports as a pitching prospect. He was probably the top left-handed pitching prospect for a while, so there's upside there. But yeah, I think you convinced me to stay away.
Fish, you got any Kyle Harrison so far? I think you're muted.
Sorry. No, yeah. The walks. No, this is the exact picture that I hate. I hate pitchers that walk guys like this. Walks and home runs. It's a terrible combination. So I'm out.
Reggie, we are on your 4th player. I like this. Another controversial player. Michael King. Why are you out at ADP? on the Padres' newly acquired starting pitcher?
That just feels real early to me. I mean, this guy's a converted reliever with a crazy injury history. He's got a pair of metal plates and screws in his elbow from when he broke it. It was such a rare injury that the only other two pitchers that ever had this injury on the mound were Joel Zamaya and Gavin Floyd. I think he only went more than 5 innings pitched twice last year, and I know that was because he pitched out of the bullpen for most of the year, but how many innings are you going to count on from this guy? How often is he going to go more than 5? And how many wins is he going to get on the Padres? It's just a hard pass for me. I mean, he's really sick on a per inning basis, so I can definitely see the intrigue, but I think if you want this kind of risk, there's Sale and there's Rodon a little bit later, kind of a similar risk reward, maybe even a bigger reward. Just no Michael King for me.
Yeah, the talent is no doubt off the charts, but like you said, he's never proven it at the big league level as a starting pitcher, and that that injury track record is just ridiculous. I mean, he was always injured the last couple of years, and it's always been an arm injury, not exactly someone. It's kind of crazy to me that was the best piece they got for Juan Soto, a generational type bat. Like the best player they got back in the deal was an injury-prone starting pitcher that has no track record of being a good starting pitcher. It's
Dude,
kind of insane. Kind of insane when you think about it.
dude, before the trade finally happened, there were so many people on Twitter, like, as probably mostly Yankees fans, are like, no way would I give up Michael King for Juan Soto. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, absolutely, you should give up Michael King for Juan Soto. Obviously, it was just a foregone conclusion once they had to work out the amount of prospects that the Padres were going to demand in return. So yeah, no thanks.
No, I agree with you on that one. Fish, your fourth fade is a player I'm really into. So I want to know why you're against drafting the 21-year-old phenom Yuri Perez, ADP 73.
Yeah, again, it's just the price. It's just too high of a price. I think he's going to have innings restrictions. He's so young. I also have some major concerns about the Marlins. I don't think the Marlins are going to be nearly as good as they were this past year. So I think wins are going to be a little tough to come by. And then from a skill standpoint, obviously there's a ton to like with him. His swinging strike is ridiculous. Ks are great, but 3.1 walks per 9 and 1.5 home run per 9. Little bit makes me a little bit nervous. He's a heavy fly ball pitcher, so yeah, it's just too high of a price for me.
Yeah, I just think I get that. And again, he's very, very young. This is going to be his age 21 season. He was 20 last year. But I really like the fact that he threw 127 innings last year as a 20-year-old. I think if you get 140 innings from this kid, again, he's only going to get better. I get that he gave up a lot of, but average fastball velocity 97.6. His swinging strike 16%. 34% whiff rate. Those are just like ridiculous numbers. And yeah, I get the ADP of 70. It's a very high pick, but also I think this kid's a second or third round pick yearly once he gets it figured out at the big league level and he's throwing 150, 170 innings a year. Is that going to be next year? I don't know, but I will definitely have some shares because I just think this could be a Cy Young candidate next year because of how talented he is. What are your thoughts on Yuri Perez, Reggie?
I've only got him once so far in a 50 where I got him at pick 82, but I'm probably going to continue to be hesitant to take him. I agree. He's maybe a generational pitching talent. He looks like he's going to be incredible, but maybe it is just a year early, and he's going in that range where there's three pretty hypey pitching prospects in Grayson, Yuri, and Bobby Miller. And I like Bobby Miller, I don't see myself taking Yuri ahead of Grayson or Bobby if that's my decision. So yeah, I have the same volume concerns, and I will probably not target him very often.
Yeah, the volume and the wins concerns are definitely valid. I just think the talent might be. I don't like passing up on talent, and the talent might just be too overwhelming for me to pass up on at least.
Yeah.
My fourth fade is going to be a lot of people's breakout arm from last year, ADP 91, Kyle Bradish. I can't draft pitchers that have horrible fastballs, and Bradish doesn't just have a horrible fastball; it's like almost as bad as it gets. Um, this pitch last year had a 366 batting average against, a 602 slugging against, 15% whiff rate, a 427 x WOBA. That's pretty much like Ronald Acuna against his fastball. And yes, he only threw it 22% of the time, way down from 44% of the time the previous year. But the fact that his slider is his only plus pitch that he throws over 20% of the time is a really, really big issue for me. Like his sinker also isn't a great pitch. It gets ground balls, but it only has a 15% whiff rate. So for me, drafting a guy that high that only has one plus pitch, again, that he throws over 20% of the time because his curveball is a really good pitch as well. That's just too much of a risk for me. And it's not like this was a fluke. In 2022, his fastball had a 400 x WOBA, 17% whiff rate, 540 slugging against, 320 batting average against. Basically the same numbers. Slugging was a little lower, but it's a horrible pitch. And for your fastball, you need your fastball to get out to the big league level. For that pitch to just be bad, it's really no surprise to me that he hit a 5 ERA his rookie season. Almost entirely because of his fastball, and I don't expect his ERA to be even close to 2.83 next year. Either of you have differing thoughts on Kyle Bradish?
I'm kind of indifferent on him. I like some things. I don't like some things. I have two Gladiator shares, but he's just kind of in the middle. He's not really a huge target for me, and I wouldn't say he's a fade.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Ryan. I have not got him yet, and he's got an elite slider. He lives off the slider, and he's in a good park, and he's on a great team. So there are reasons to draft him, but I think I lean toward your take, Ryan. It's a little bit too high for me, and not planning on looking his way very much.
So Reggie, we will go to your fifth and final fade. I like this player a lot, so I'm interested to see what you say. Seattle Mariners arm, Bryce Miller, ADP 188. Why are you so against Bryce Miller?
I'm not so against him. I loved him last year. I had him in some DCs, and I was pumped. And I went aggressive in Fab Leagues to get a couple shares, and I was just absolutely fist pumping, victory lapping all over Twitter when he was breaking out, because he's super fun to watch. I love the way he pitches. I love his delivery, his swag. He's got a sick fastball, and he just pumps fastballs in all day.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching him closely because I liked him so much, and he was just getting absolutely rocked in the second half. Even the outs were hard hit outs on that fastball. There was a lot of warning track flyouts. Teams quickly realized they could sit on that and sort of dare him to throw some off speed, and he did not have an answer for that. He did not have a usable slider or sweeper or curveball. I think he tried all three of those, and they never looked great. That said, he's developing a splitter, and I think I saw a tweet that says apparently it's got some crazy stuff numbers. So I think he's going to need that splitter, and I'm just not willing to count on it just yet. And I think, I don't know. For me, I didn't like the way he finished the year, and I'm afraid to draft him right now until I see the usable off-speed pitch.
No, that's totally valid concern. None of his off-speed pitches were great, performed well at all. But it's really interesting to me that looking at Stuff Plus numbers, his slider had a 113 Stuff Plus, curveball had a 113, and then his changeup, which was a 90, that's actually well above average for a changeup. On top of that, that changeup is now going to be a splitter that you said has really good stuff scores. So he has the potential to have 3+ off-speed offerings. On top of that, he has really good command and, like you said, an amazing fastball. I think the reason why he performed so poorly in the second half last year, he was just thrown, like you said. You said you watched him a lot. I watched like all of his starts because I think he's going to be a really good pitcher one day. They were just sitting fastball, and you're never going to. He just never made the adjustment. And I think if he really works on those breaking pitches and executing the location of them, again, is it next year that he breaks out to be a starter? I don't know, but I actually don't mind the price of 180. I think the upside is really, really high, but all the concerns you laid out are totally valid. If he does not make adjustments, I actually think he has a good chance of ending up in the minor leagues next year. Again, if he doesn't change anything about his arsenal. Fish, are you into Bryce Miller at all?
No, I'm not. I do like the low walk rate though. That's obviously something that I like quite a bit. But no, I don't know. I picked him up in my main event last year, and he was great for a while. And obviously, some things fell apart. And like you guys were saying, a lot of guys are sitting fastball. So now he needs to make the adjustment. But again, is that this year, or is it it's going to take a year to kind of come up with the secondaries? And I'm just I'm not willing to pay the price for him quite yet.
So, Fish, we're going to go over your fifth and final sell. I actually can't believe his ADP is this high. I didn't know it was. Walker Buehler, ADP of 102. Why are you fading the Dodgers starting pitcher?
Well, it's his first year back off of, I believe, his second Tommy John. Again, it kind of goes with Yuri Perez. The innings, I just have innings concerns. Like these are still pretty valuable picks here in the first 10 rounds, and I want to have. If I'm taking pitchers, I want to make sure that these guys are going to throw a lot of innings. So I don't know. I think that they're gonna limit him either out of the gates or mid-season. There's just no way he's going back to like 180 innings. Like I can't see that at all. So we don't know how people come back after their second Tommy John either. Like how many pitchers have been, came back and been their usual selves. I don't think there's very, very big list. So pretty easy fade for me. I don't really get it.
Yeah, second Tommy John. For a fact the Dodgers are going to limit his innings. They do that anyway with their pitchers. So why would they not do it with a guy coming off a second Tommy John? And he didn't look great the last time he pitched. Even though I was a fan of him that year, I believe he was going the back end of the first round. I didn't have any shares, but I still thought he was a good pitcher. But he did not look good before he got hurt. So, it's not someone I'm going to have any shares of. Reggie, you drafting any Walker Buehler?
Absolutely not. Like how you guys, like you said, even when he was good, Buehler, he was always, if I remember correctly, kind of overperforming his peripherals, and people were always kind of waiting for when the other shoe was going to drop with him. So yeah, it's just way too early for a profile like that.
So my fifth sell is really boring player that no one wants to fucking hear about. So Reggie, I want you to talk about your sixth pick, Jackson Hall.
Now you gotta tell us who it is.
Wait, who?
TJ Friedl. TJ Friedl is my sell. He hits the ball with a wet noodle. That team is too crowded. I don't think he's an everyday player. I don't think he's any good. So I just don't see him, especially in a DC. I don't see him starting the entire year just because I don't think he's any good.
Yeah. Same here.
And enough of that. No one cares about TJ Friedl. Reggie, your sixth sell is the number one prospect in all of baseball, Jackson Holliday, going around pick 210. Why are you not into the Orioles' potential phenom?
Speaking of my wet noodle, a wet noodle. How do you like a 104.9 max EV? Does that sound good to you? That's what he had in AAA last year. Obviously, I don't doubt that this guy's going to be a stud eventually, but he's just turning 21, I believe. He's going to that massive park in Baltimore, and I think he's got a couple of years of gaining some strength before he's a legit power threat. I think he had 12 homers, 24 stolen bases, 25 stolen bases across like 4 levels last year. So there's going to be some speed, but I don't know. I think there's a good chance he does make the club. They seem to be open to that, and I can see that happening for sure. But I don't know where he's going to hit in the lineup, and I'm not sure where the power and the speed is going to land in his first year at age 21.
Yeah, it's funny. He's so young that he's actually not. That was his age 19 season last year. He just turned 20. He just turned 20 a month ago.
Okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yes, it's pretty insane how young he is. I think I'm going to have some shares just because I think he is just an outrageously talented hitter. I didn't know the 104 max EV is interesting at AAA, but I will say he only played 18 games at AAA.
That's fair.
I was trying to look at his minor league max EV because I knew it. I thought it was around 110, 112. I'm not 100% sure because I can't find it. But I do believe he's a guy like a really, really quick bat. He's sort of like not a Gunner clone, but he's much more like contact walk oriented than Gunner is. But I just think it's crazy for a guy at 19 years old to go from high A to triple A. And even though his AAA season wasn't nearly as good as his AA and high, he was still a 110 WRC. He was an above average hitter. It's when he started the year in fucking high. Like, it's just insane. He actually started in low A, I'm sorry. So he had 4 levels in one season. I just think this kid is a superstar. When, obviously, he's only 20 years old next year. So could it happen next year? Definitely, it could easily not happen. But I actually don't mind the price. And I think if he figures out these ground ball issues that he has at basically every level, I think the sky's the limit. And he's going to be a very, very good player one day. But if the max EV thing is true, I'm trying to look for his max EV at other levels, then that's obviously more of an issue. But yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting fade. Because, again, he's number 1 prospect in all of baseball. A lot of people are going to be drafting him on that alone. Fish, do you have any shares of Jackson Holiday so far?
I do not. Nope. I don't know. Too young. I don't know when he's coming up. I mean, maybe he makes the opening day roster. We'll see. I just don't know really enough about him. Obviously, I know that he's the number 1 prospect in baseball, but I mean, outside of that, I don't know. He looks like he's about 12 years old, so I'm big on drafting guys who look good. And he looks too young to be playing the major leagues. But nah, I'm kidding, obviously. But no, I don't have any shares.
Yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for our buy sell. Anything else either you wanted to touch on in terms of like any other topic or any other players you wanted to talk about?
I'm going to give one more fade because I still can't believe that he's, playing in Major League Baseball. But Justin Verlander at ADP 114, he's going to be 41 years old. We've seen his K rate dwindle 8 per 9. His walk rate went up to 2.5 per 9, and he's a heavy fly ball pitcher. So if that walk rate stays there, the lack of Ks, the fly balls, the age, it's got to come crashing down at some point. So I'm way out on Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I took him in my most recent DC. I've only done one so far, if you don't count the Rob early DC where we drafted in fucking August. So other than that, I have one DC. I took him just because pitching went way higher than I anticipated, and I kind of just panic picked him. I hated it. I don't want to draft any Verlander. It's really just the age for me. I have no interest in a 41-year-old starting pitcher. I don't know how you feel about him, Reggie, but I will probably have no more Justin Verlander on the rest of my teams.
Yeah, I agree. I have no shares so far, and I think I'm usually collecting bats in this range anyways because I've grabbed a few pitchers early in the draft, so I haven't even really considered them. But I don't see any reason to go out of my way to get them.
Yeah. So consensus on Justin Verlander, and I guess that's gonna wrap it up. I'll throw it to you, Fish. But Reggie, appreciate you coming on, man. Gave everyone some great insight. Convinced me on some players. So
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days?
Nah, I don't really care. But
Okay.
thank you for having me on. I had a blast, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll wrap it up. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I know we ran a little long, but the information was good, so we're not going to cut it short just to cut it short. So thanks for checking us out, and we'll be back probably next week sometime with our positional previews. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.